So today I'd like to talk about the power and the freedom that comes from making a choice. And this is next to the last in a whole series that we've been exploring, a whole series of Sundays. We've been exploring the idea of taking refuge. And, we looked first of all at refuge as, it's a funny word. Um, it most directly means shelter, to find a place to shelter, like shelter from the storm, or taking refuge if there was like um, some kind of riot happening and you find a safe place to hang out, you find a refuge. Or if there's a war and you flee the conflict, you are a refuge seeker or refugee. And that's not what this means, although you might find some security and some peace. Refuge, in terms of taking refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, the Buddha, the teachings, and the community, is really finding a place where you're confident, a place that you trust. And it's from that confidence and trust that the sense of safety arises. So we looked at the Buddha as an example, and you can be kind of confident. You can be confident because he's an example. His life offers an example of a life of an ordinary human being who found his way to a complete open mind and awakened heart. And you can do the same, following the kind of things that he did. Which include meditating and include making that search for open, awake heart a priority, and not stopping until you find it. So one of the examples we took from Buddha's life is he tried many, many practices, and he didn't stop until he found the one that opened the door, the key that opened the door for his heart to awaken completely and his mind to be completely free. He didn't go, oh, I've tried 5 keys, I'm going to stop now. 5 practices. He kept going. So that's an example that you can have some confidence in, especially if the first thing you did didn't immediately lead to enlightenment. Like, well, that's okay. We just keep trying. Confidence in the teachings we've explored a lot. So confidence in the basic teaching of the foundation way, that a permanent sense, like I am solid, I am real, my identity, my sense of me will live forever, that is like a dream. It's not actually a good description of how things are. And we've talked so often of life being like a river and not like a rock, but we dream of being rocks. We dream that, I am the center of the universe and everything should be my way. And letting go of that opens up the foundation teachings. And once you let go of that, you see how everything is wide open and constantly changing, and also connected, that everything that happens is connected to something else, that we're in this web of interconnection. And those two teachings are sometimes called emptiness and compassion. So we can have confidence in those. And last week we talked about how right at the place where the Great Way teachings begin to go into the immediate practices, the immediate way, or the Vajrayana, there is a teaching on how the potential to awaken your heart and mind already lives inside of you. It lives inside of every being. That is, everything that's alive has this potential. And sometimes that's called Buddha nature. In Shambhala practices, we call it basic goodness, that there is this potential. And it's basic because it's in everything. So it's not, I'm not a big deal because I have it, because an ant has it, and an earthworm has it, and the Dalai Lama has it. We all have the same thing. And it's good, right? So that's the basic part. And it's good. It's not good versus bad. It's just good. Like, you have this ability. It's just an ability that every living being has. If you're alive, you have this. And it's good to have the ability to open your mind and open your heart. So those were the reflections we offered on taking refuge in the teachings. And the teachings are vast. I mean, there's thousands. We could spend years just going through one small corner of the teachings. So it's not intended to be an exhaustive summary. It's just examples of this is what it would be like to actually find confidence in the teachings. I haven't talked about confidence in the Sangha or the community because in a very interesting way, what we do every week is we come together as a community and we can trust each other to be here. You know, none of us has been able to be here every week, but most of us keep coming back and being here for ourselves and for each other. And out of that mixture of I'm here for myself and I'm here for you, we build a community of people who are trying to do the same thing. And I think you can have confidence in that. If it was a community where no one showed up, that would be different. If it was a community in which, you weren't welcome, that would be different. So you need to, if you're looking for a spiritual place of confidence, find a community that feels open and inclusive and that you'll be willing to be part of. So having thought a lot about taking refuge, and this is the community refuge, right? So it's sort of like right in our name. I thought today would be a good time to talk about the ceremony or the ritual of taking refuge. And next week I offered to perform that ceremony. And I have one person reach out who hasn't taken refuge, who would like to take refuge, and we'll do that for them. And if you already have taken refuge, like I took formally, taking refuge is when you formally announce to the world and to yourself, I am a Buddhist. So that's the choice part that I'm going to get to. I did that, I think, in 1987. So, but every day I retake those promises. I remake them. So you can make them as many times as possible. And for most of us, when we made those promises the first time, because I believe most of you have already taken refuge, then you probably received a name. You have a Buddhist name. And I'll talk more about that, if not this week, next week. But that first Buddhist name, and you might receive many Buddhist names, that first Buddhist name sort of speaks to the energy you're bringing into the practice. Like this is where at least one person looked at you and went, this looks like where you're starting. We all have, I think, everybody on this call, except for Robert, have Christian names. And Robert, I don't know if Robert, do they have a ceremony, like a naming ceremony? Yeah. And when you get bar mitzvah, do you get a name? Right? Because at confirmation, like, my name is not Brian. My given name is Bernard, right? And that was my baptism name. And so you all probably have baptism names, or if not, you have Western names that were family names that you're given, right? So when you become a Buddhist, you're often given a Buddhist name. And, it's great. It's nice to have names, lots of names, because they're like different windows into the experience of you, right? So more about that maybe later today or maybe next week when we do the ceremony. Today, I wanted to talk about why a ceremony. And I think the simplest answer, because there is a ceremony in which a teacher offers refuge. And the teacher, has this rather fancy name, which basically means they give you the refuge. They're the person who's saying the words, and you take refuge, not with Brian, because you're taking refuge in the Buddha. Me as part of the Sangha, maybe. But the person sitting in that teacher role has a function. And so they're called the preceptor. And they offer the ceremony. And why a ceremony? Because humans are ceremony beings. And it's really very simple. We have ceremonies for lots of things. We have ceremonies, when you graduate school, when you get married. You might have a ceremony if you get separated or divorced. You have a ceremony when your job ends, when you retire. You have a ceremony for birthdays. We have lots of ceremonies. It's just we mark special occasions. And there's something special, very special, about making the choice to be a follower of the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. So I'm going to just shorten that into to be a Buddhist. So the question at the very beginning, what's a word that you might associate with making a choice? And they were great. I said freedom because once the choice is made, I don't have to worry about that anymore. I've made my choice. The other words we had were simplicity, agony, enjoyable, painful or procrastination, fortuitous, ouch, reflective, relief, tension, and necessary. And all of those are true. That they're part of making a choice. It has a tension, like is it this or is it that? Before you make the choice to declare yourself as a Buddhist, Trungpa Rinpoche said, after this ceremony, when you're going to the hospital and they ask your religion, you can confidently say Buddhist. Try to have them spell it right so you don't have like somebody else show up, right? So you're declaring yourself. And there's he talked about it as, before that, you're looking around at all these different things. And this is how our culture is organized. It's as if the internet and Amazon are expressing the heart of, and Etsy and all those online shopping things. They express the heart of the intelligence of our culture. There's lots of choices all the time. It can be delivered right to your door really easily. Choice, 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 choice. You never have to settle on one thing. There's always something else, right? And if it shows up and you don't like it, you can return it most of the time. So that endless amount of not really having to make a final choice, that's the culture we live in. And Chogyam Trungpa, in a brilliant talk, which I'll send to everybody, he called it shopping. We're constantly shopping, and we're spiritually shopping. So we want to take a little bit from mindfulness, and we want to take a little bit from the Buddha. Okay, so here's Pema Chodron, here's Thich Nhat Hanh, maybe here's something from Community Refuge. Oh, the Dalai Lama said that. Oh, wait a minute, Nelson Mandela over there had this to say. Oh, and Barack Obama. And we start to put together all of these things, right, into our own special Amazon-delivered quilt of spirituality. That's how we are. And that's part of, like, it's a wonderful thing to be able to do. And then you get to the place where you decide, I've been shopping long enough. I see the good things and there are good things in Christianity and wonderful things in Judaism and really interesting, astoundingly powerful things in Islam and in shamanic practices and in psychedelic medicines. Start going down the list of all the places you might shop, but you go, it's time to leave the store. I don't know. I had to make dinner for the kids. The lights are flickering. They're telling me it's time to leave. But somehow you get to the place where it's time to make a choice. And so when you get there with your Dharma practice, you can make a choice to declare yourself as a Buddhist. I am a follower of the example of the Buddha. So I'm a follower of the Buddha. I try to put the teachings of the Buddha, the Dharma, into practice in my life. And I rely on the companionship and the support and often the irritating corrections from my fellow Buddhist of, you could do that better. Or, here, let me help you, right? Both sides. That's the Sangha, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. And you make a decision, that's where I'm going to put my energy. I'm done with, it's not that I'll never hear anything else that's intelligent from Christianity, Judaism, Islam, the psychedelic fields, the plant medicine people, the shamanic thing. I'm open for intelligence, but I've made this choice. and I'm going in that direction. So if the intelligence speaks to my refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, I'd love it. But if it's taking me back into the mall to shop for something else, I've made my decision. Here's an example of the freedom that comes, and this is a very personal and, day-to-day experience. Margaret and I have been looking for a car to replace our 20-year-old Toyota with 400,000 kilometers, so 250,000 miles. And it probably has another 100,000 kilometers in it, but when it rains, the car leaks. So it's like the water's coming in, off of the headliner, and it's just the car's wearing out. Right? And so I do what most of us would do. I go into shopping mode, and I'm looking at different online retailers, and I'm investigating, and I'm on Facebook looking at cars and Car and Driver and, Consumer Reports, and I do some investigation. Well, of course, my social media feed is now filled with car ads and car dealer ads. That's how it works. I'm not going to fight that. That's just the reality we live in. But last week we made a decision, and we put a small deposit down on car X, and I'm supposed to pick it up tomorrow. And now when those ads come in, right, I've made my choice. I just look at them and keep going. Like, I'm not going to fight that they're there. They are sort of meaningless at this point. Unless the deal falls through, the choice is made. And taking refuge as a ceremony is a little like that. I've made a choice. And so there is an agony, especially if you're the kind of person that, is this going to be the right choice, the wrong choice? How do I know it's right? So the encouragement is to take your time before you declare yourself. It can be enjoyable making a choice, especially if it's the choices we had for newer vehicles. We're buying a new used car, but they were good choices. It's like, that looks nice, that looks nice, and that one over there. It's like, oh, we're on that one, right? So it's an enjoyable tension. There is a bit of ouch sometimes, especially if you're the kind that the person that after you've made the choice, you think about, was that the right one? So I really encourage you, regarding your Buddhist practice, to, if you're retaking the vows, to try to get past ouch, to get to a place of like, yeah, I really trust this, which is why we've gone through the long series of, this is about trust and confidence in the Dharma. Because then it can be relief, and it's necessary. And the necessary part, and I was really glad when that word came in, if you never make a choice, you never get past that point. So let's switch our metaphors. Most of us are long past this, but maybe not, but maybe someone watching this. You're dating, and you're contemplating who you would like to spend your time with, either the next 6 months or the next 6 years or your life, however you regard that. And you've gone on, I don't know, let's be generous, 100 dates. Sooner or later, and you've been, 100 dates with 20 different people. You've reached the 5th date with 20 people. Sooner or later, you get to going out with somebody and you make a choice. Do I like this person enough to declare, yes, we're going out? We're not just doing the preliminary date thing. Like, let's declare we're going out. However you do that, that changes from generation to generation. But yet now we're girlfriend, boyfriend, or partners, or whatever we're calling ourselves. But when you make that choice, it allows you to go deeper, because the first time the person you're going out with is really annoying, you've made a choice to commit to them, which will carry you past the annoyance and allow you to go emotionally deeper with them. Here's how it works in spiritual practice with taking refuge. You've decided that you're a Buddhist, and you run into an obstacle in your meditation. It feels like you're not going anywhere. You've committed yourself to your Buddhist practice, And so you've tried to figure out how to go deeper and go through the obstacle rather than run away, go back to the supermarket, and maybe I'll try psychedelic medicine. Or maybe I'll try crystal channeling. You've decided I'm a Buddhist. I'm going to see if I can go deeper. And so the choice is necessary for deepening. And that really, I think, is why we are. And the first question that I tried to speak to is, why is a choice necessary? Why do we make them? Because we are choice making beings. Making choices, like taking refuge, allows you to explore more deeply what it means to be a human being. And so with that, I'm going to repeat the invitation that I did last week, that if any of you, haven't taken refuge and would like to, please just send me an email. That's all I need. And then we'll do that ceremony next week. And if you have taken refuge, please show up, because it's nice when, there's a bunch of us who are retaking the vows. And then we'll have done that. So that's what I had to offer for today. I'd be really interested in hearing what you think. And I realized I hit record, but it doesn't look like it's, oh, there it is. It's recording. So I'm going to pause recording.